Okay, notes for 8-H Math 7. This is theoretical probability versus experimental probability. So theoretical probability, well, you kind of see the word theory right in there, and that's exactly what I want you to be thinking of. Theory. And theoretical probability, what I always say, I'm always thinking like in theory. Theoretical probability, in more words or less, is what should happen. You know, if all is right in the universe, what should happen? And theoretical probability does that because it's based on known facts or characteristics. So, for example, a fact or a known characteristic that we know is that a number cube. What do you know about a number cube? Well, it has 6 sides. Another known fact is that a coin, has 2 sides. Those are known facts. So in theory, if I were to take a coin and I were to flip it 10 times, in theory, how many times would you expect it to land on heads? Well, in theory, you would expect it to land on heads 5 times, half of the time. In tails, the other half. But is that always what happens? If you were to take a coin and flip it 5 times, or 10 times, would you get heads 5 times and tails 5 times all the time, every single time? And the answer to that is no. That's why probabilities are just predictions. They're estimates. They're not always accurate. Probabilities can be wrong. And that's the big difference between experimental probability and theoretical probability. Theoretical probability is what should happen. Experimental probability is what actually happened in the experiment. So experimental probability is what actually happened. Would actually happen in the experiment. If I actually took that coin and flipped it 10 times and recorded what I got in each time, that would be my experimental probability. And this is found by naturally repeating or conducting an experiment. Can't have experimental probability without an experiment, which is why 9 times out of 10, we're always finding theoretical probability. And one last little thing here that experimental probability has a also known as, and that would be called relative frequency. Okay. And last but not least here, as the number of trials or trials that you do in your experiment, the number of times I flip the coin, as the number of trials increases, the experimental probability approaches the theoretical. And what that means is that if you flip a coin 10,000 times versus 10 times, you're way more likely to have a 50-50 ratio if you do it 10,000 times than only 10 times. That's what they mean as by the number of trials increasing. So let's take a look at some examples.